What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Girl Who Talks Sports, the podcast where we talk sports and other girly things. I am Sam Cardona, and thank you guys so much for listening today. I have a very special announcement, which I will get into in just a second. But this week, we had some reoccurring guests on this week. Big Blue Avenue from Review and Preview Sports, Tom Scavetta, and Hank Indictor came on to talk about the Giants with me once again, which was so great. I love those guys. They have me on their show, Big Blue Avenue, pretty often, so I wanted to have them on to talk about more free agency things. The biggest thing that happened over the weekend was the Giants picking up Kenny Golladay. So we talk about that. We talk about the Giants in general. We hear a little bit of backstory on how they got into Review and Preview, Big Blue Avenue, so on and so forth. So it was a really great interview, and we will get into that in just a second. However, I have some really big news, and if you guys don't follow me on social media, then you don't know about this at all. But guys, the Girl Who Talks Sports officially has merch. We made merch. I'm so excited. People have already reached out to me telling me how much they like it. They purchased it. I'm so thankful for those people. Like I'm blown away at the fact that people actually want to purchase things with my name, like the Girl Who Talks Sports on it. So for those listening on the podcast, obviously you can't see it, but for those watching on the YouTube video, I'm going to show you guys exactly what we are offering at the Girl Who Talks Sports store. So first things first, we have just a normal t-shirt that just has our foam finger, TGWTS. Turn it around, the back has the Girl Who Talks Sports with a really fun football design, which I really like. So that's the first shirt. Second shirt, also it comes in like long sleeves and short sleeves and other shirts, so like you have to look through it all to see all of the different designs in terms of what you can buy. And the next shirt that we have is Sports and Other Girly Things, which is one of my favorites. The back, you turn it around, it just says the Girl Who Talks Sports with our same football little creation there, which I really like. I love this. This one comes in a crew neck, which I really enjoy. I'm really excited for this one. And finally, you guys know I love my tea time. We made a mug. We made a tea time mug, which I thought is so fun. Turn it around, the back says, of course, where we talk about the hot, steamy gossip of the sports world. And which is ironic because today we don't have a tea time. There hasn't been a lot of tea to go over. So, but nonetheless, there will be in the future. So we have a mug for it now. I am so excited. I will leave the description to the store in the YouTube video, in the podcast notes, everywhere. Like I am so excited about this. And I really appreciate everybody who's already purchased things, who've already reached out to me and telling me how much they like it. So all the money that I'm going to be making from the merch is going right back into the podcast. I'm going to be buying a new microphone, maybe, fix up the background a little bit. Everything I'm making from the merch is going back into the show to make the viewing experience and the listening experience better for you guys. So, cause this is why I'm doing it. So, so make sure that you check out the merch. And as per usual, don't forget to subscribe, follow all podcasting platforms, and subscribe to the YouTube channel at The Girl Who Talks Sports. Please subscribe. We are about 9 subscribers away from 100, and I am like so excited. I never even thought 100 people would know who I am, but here we are. So please subscribe, turn on notifications, to click that little bell, like the video, comment on the video, all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much. And finally, don't forget to follow us on social media at TGWTS Podcast, both Twitter and on Instagram. So yeah, that is all of our plugs today. And speaking of plugs, we are going to do a quick affiliate read from Buzzsprout before we get into our interview with Tom and Hank. I know one of the best decisions I've ever made was to start this podcast. And I'm sure some of you have thought about starting one as well. But the question is always, where do you start? Buzzsprout is the best and easiest way to start your own professional podcast. They've already helped over 100,000 people launch their own podcast, including myself. They can get your podcast on every major podcasting platform. They provide you with your very own podcasting website, audio players to drop in other websites, detailed analytics, tools to promote your episodes, and so much more. Buzzsprout also publishes new blog posts, podcast episodes, and YouTube videos every week. To start your very own podcast and get a free, yes, a free $20 Amazon gift card, click the link in the show notes. Buzzsprout will know that you were sent by me, the girl who talks sports, and help support the show. Buzzsprout, the easiest way to start a podcast. All right, guys, so without further ado, let's get into our interview with Tom Scavetta, Hank Indictor of Big Blue Avenue from Review and Preview Sports. All right, everyone, we have a reoccurring two guests come on this week, Tom Scavetta and Hank Indictor of Big Blue Avenue from Review and Preview Sports. Guys, thank you so much for coming on this week.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Sam. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to this.
Sam, always a pleasure. I'm really excited for this. Always fun talking football with this dynamic squad.
Yeah, we have a lot of things to talk about. I have been going over free agency for quite some time now, but the most important free agent that we haven't been able to go over is a Giants wide receiver, Kenny Golladay now. So we are going to get into that in just a little bit. But before we get into that, we're going to do a little bit of an origin story as we have been over the course of the offseason. And I want to ask you guys how you got into all this. So Tom, I'll start with you. How did you get into Review and Preview and Big Blue Avenue and all that stuff that you guys are doing right now?
Right. So now, as you know, Review and Preview is its own brand, Review and Preview Sports. But rewind 4 or 5 years ago, the show used to be one show called Review and Preview in a college radio station where I went to college out in Long Island. And I wanted to be on a sports talk show. So then I sat in on a sports talk show. Then eventually I took over as the host a couple of years later when I went alumni, and that kind of just transgressed into a weekly sports talk show. And then obviously 2020 came along and we moved to a virtual format. And then I started to think about ideas. And then that's when we started adding shows and made Review and Preview was like more of like a network where we each had all our individual shows. So now it's more like a network, and Big Blue Avenue was one of those shows that I wanted to add to the network, Giants exclusive show. So yeah, that's pretty much how it all got started, and I'm happy we are where we are now. So
right. Yeah, I mean, you guys have done so many things. You've been adding shows. I know you guys have a basketball show now, which is super exciting. But Hank, talk to me. How did you get, kind of into this whole thing with Tom with Big Blue Avenue?
So Tom went to grad school at Sacred Heart, which is where I went for undergrad. And Tom and I pretty much met through our mutual friend who we worked with. And we ended up working at NBC a year later. Fast forward to 2020 when, we're in the pandemic, nothing's going on. We're stuck in our homes. There's no sports to watch. Tom, one day, now keep in mind, before this, I'd been calling into his show, Review and Preview. I would talk Yankees, I would talk Giants, pretty much my teams. And I would even throw some Rangers in there too, because got to throw in a little bit of hockey as well. Right. So July happens. Tom has this idea. Let's have you on. Let's do a show about the Giants. Let's talk about some of these obscure Giants playoff teams from the early 2000s that made the playoffs. And I said, sure, why not? And that was actually a lot of fun because I spent a few weeks looking up some of my old tapes from the 2000 Giants, even some stuff on YouTube, and then doing my own research. So we pretty much it was kind of like the same show that we did recapping the 2020 season. I think 2020. So that's pretty much been a lot of fun. And then I remember even in the weeks before that, we were kind of like texting each other back and forth, naming off random Giants from like the 07 squad and like,
right. And
then like some of the best players at certain positions, like say wide receiver, quarterback. So I think that was kind of what brought me in there. And then Big Blue Avenue has kind of been a good learning experience for myself as well, because in about a week or so, I'm planning on starting my own baseball show. It's going to be called Hitting for the Cycle. And nice. I've been learning a lot of stuff on the fly from Review and Preview. So Tom, I owe you a big thank you. You've been helping me learn a lot of stuff with podcasting and all that. And I've even been able to help add my own areas of expertise into this. So it's been a lot of fun. And Tom, and you can pretty much tell Tom and I work well together. So it's been great.
That's so fun. That is so cool. And I'm so excited for your baseball show to come on because I know you're a Yankees fan. I'm a Yankees fan. I'm really excited for yeah, I got my baseball helmet back here. But yeah, that's really awesome. And I'm curious, how did you guys come up with, or Tom, I'm guessing maybe you came up with the Big Blue Avenue name. Where did that name come from? What sparked that?
We're just thinking of names for the show, and Hank obviously just said a lot of flattering things about how I kind of helped him get started with that, but it was more him because he would do a bunch of like the research and whatnot. So Hank, you may remember better than me, but we were thinking of names, and I kind of just found something that just clicked because I listened to Lance Meadow, who is the host of the Big Blue Kickoff podcast, and we had him on a special episode, kind of like previewing the Giants 53-man roster for 2020, like who might make it, who might not. And, he's the host of Big Blue Kickoff. And then I listened to a lot of Irish rap. And then there's this one song called Out on the Avenue. So I kind of combined those two, Big Blue Avenue. So that's kind of how it just came about. And yeah, you always got to do that research, make sure there's no other podcast called the same thing, because you want to be very original but generic at the same time. So putting something together like that, I think, Hank, that's kind of how we got started with the name, though.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sounds about right. I remember we were kind of talking about different names, and then all of a sudden, I don't remember what I was doing, but that one day I just get a random text. I'm like, hey, let's do Big Blue Avenue. I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. Why not?
That's awesome. That's so fun. It gives me the vibes of like Electric Avenue, and like that's
Yes.
always kind of like the song that's in my head every time I hear Big Blue Avenue. But I mean, I love that name. I think it's great, and you guys have been so kind to have me on your guys' show several times. So my family at this point knows Big Blue Avenue because I'm like, guys, I'm going on Big Blue Avenue tonight. You guys got to be quiet. But yeah, I love it. I love it so much. And I think that that's great that you guys are doing it. And we have a lot of Giants things to go over, which you guys are probably two of the most known experts that I know about the Giants, because you guys know a whole lot of stuff, and we're going to get into it. So the big news out of the New York Giants this week is that we have signed free agent wide receiver Kenny Golladay, which we talked about on your show, like whether or not we were going to end up getting him, because it was like, oh, is it going to be too much money? Is it going to be this? Are we going to get another free agent? Are we going to draft somebody? So Tom, I'll start with you. What were your initial thoughts when you found out that A, we were signing him, and B, the amount of money that we gave him with, I think, 72 mil?
Well, Sam, I think you and Hank both know my original thoughts as far as what I wanted heading into free agency. I wanted to draft the number one wide receiver, but the entire past week, it was just context clue, one after another, telling us Giants fans that we're going to end up with Kenny Golladay. And I was still in doubt up until about Thursday when things started to heat up. And, I was really excited. I was really excited when the contract details came out. At first, I was a little like, whoa, because these other receivers were signing for far less money. But 4 years, $72 million deal. Now, only $40 million of that's guaranteed. And that includes a $17 million signing bonus. So what that means is there's a void fifth year in the deal, which is an absolute genius move by Gettleman and Judge and Kevin Abrams to spread out the cap hit over the course of 4 and that fifth year if they want to void it, which is similar to what the Saints are doing with Taysom Hill. That's why everybody was like, what the hell, when that 4-year, $140 million extension came out. So his 2021 cap is only a $1 million salary. That includes a $3.4 million signing bonus, and then he makes $250K per game with incentives based on performance. So I think I was very happy because the Giants took their time with this. So those were my initial thoughts on Kenny Golladay. Overall, I was very happy and satisfied because at this point, all the other receivers were going, so we had to get him.
Yeah.
And what the signing does is it opens up a lot more draft flexibility for the Giants. And 4-year deal, I would have preferred a 3 and maybe extend them later on, but a 4-year deal is really good. Giants don't give those out too often. So if they give Kenny Golladay a 4-year deal, they must really like what they see because he's only 27 years old. So my initial thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that the amount of money makes me a little bit nervous. I
Yeah.
do think that 72 mil is a lot, and we had gone into the cap space and stuff. But Hank, let me know, what are you feeling about Golladay, and like how are you feeling when you found out that we ended up signing him?
It was interesting. I saw the figures in the money deal and I'm like, whoa, 4 years, 72, that's a lot.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I also had to stop and think, you're not going to get talented wide receivers necessarily for cheap all the time.
Very true.
And this is an area of need. Like Daniel Jones did not have the best weapons on the team last year. And I think getting Kenny Golladay is a huge upgrade to this offense. This is a guy who can catch deep balls, and he's a good red zone threat too. And, it harkens back to another signing that happened 16 years ago on St. Patrick's Day, as Tom mentioned, and on our own reaction, Plaxico Burress. So I think getting him, instant upgrade to the offense. And yeah, like Tom said, if you're going to give a guy a 4-year, $72 million contract, you must really like him. So I'm definitely on board with the signing. And, I think, and overall, I just think Gettleman, it's surprising me that I'm saying this after a few years ago, but like he's done a really good job this offseason.
Yeah, for sure. And like the thing is with the whole free agent thing, when we were talking about it on your guys' show, we were kind of leaning away from Kenny Golladay because of the fact that we just didn't think it would be possible to get him. We definitely thought other teams were going to be involved and that they'd be able to offer more money because of our cap space. I was pretty set on Curtis Samuel, and when Curtis Samuel ended up signing with Washington, I was like, okay, now that he's gone and all these other guys are slowly coming off the market, like now we have to go all in on Golladay here. And to be fair, I know that some people said some things about Gettleman throughout the season, throughout last season, and how they were not all on board. I could probably say I wasn't 100% on board with Gettleman, but he seems to be doing a fairly good job at this point. I mean, I have had nothing but happiness throughout this free agency process. So I think that this is great. And also with Kenny Golladay, I'm curious, Tom, I'll go back to you now. What do you think Kenny Golladay can bring to this offense? Like, what is going to make him worth the money that we're spending on him?
Right. So, and real quickly, I just want to say that this is by far the most creative contract the Giants have put together in the past decade. When 2023 cap comes around, this deal, $18 million a year, is going to look like a steal, quite frankly, when wide receivers, the market's going to probably uptick towards to like 23 to 25 million for some of these wide receivers. But to answer your question, I think what makes Golladay so special and extremely beneficial to this offense is he could align in the slot, the Z, and the X receiver positions. Since 2019, actually, and I was looking these stats up over the weekend before we put our video out, he averages the most yards per catch in the NFL since 2019. Mm-hmm. And not to mention, 2019 was an outstanding year for him. He led the NFL in touchdowns and receiving yards. So I think that's what makes him really special. And what made him such an essential signing was Giants receivers last year dropped 29 passes, right? Never a good thing. So to get Kenny Golladay is insane. I think you got him at such a cost-efficient price too, where his cap hit for this year is only $4.5 million. I mean, The Giants killed this. They killed this. And he brings, he had dialogue with Daniel Jones. He brings a lot of tenacity. He's a young player. And this signing is a true testament to what Joe Judge has done with this team. He's changed the culture where these big name players want to come here now. As we're with Pat Shurmur and Ben McAdoo, you didn't really see that. So I think Golladay, what he brings is his versatility, which is big, his character, which is outstanding from what we've been hearing, and the fact that he wants to be a Giant. He wants to be a Giant. Those are the three things, in my opinion, that stick out to me the most when I think of Kenny Golladay. And of course, him being a true number one wide receiver who's tall too. His 6'4" frame, he's around 214. He can make contested catches over these smaller defensive backs, which is something we didn't have over like the previous 3 to 4 years. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, no, I didn't even realize he was that tall. That's even
big.
More exciting. 6'4" is, especially with arms up, wingspan, like that's really exciting. And I did hear that also that Daniel Jones was in the mix. He was the one, I think he called up Golladay himself and was like, listen, like, this is really great. And like, you could come here and we could do this, this, and that. So that's, for me, showing more leadership on Daniel's part. Like, that's really great. So Hank, what are your thoughts on Kenny coming into this offense, and also kind of like Daniel being a part of this recruiting process?
I love it. And it doesn't surprise me because, I mean, Daniel Jones has a lot of the same characteristics as a certain other quarterback that we know and love, number 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not the least bit surprised that he went out there and recruited him. And the fact that he came here, that he wanted to be here, really speaks volumes, as like Tom said, about how the culture's changed. Like, yeah, I'm going to give Dave Gettleman the credit where credit is due. And in addition, I'm also going to give him the benefit of the doubt after like the past few years and after how well he did the last offseason. But I think in addition, the other guy who definitely deserves credit is Joe Judge, because as Tom said, this guy brought a culture to the Giants. Like, you have a different feel watching the Giants with Joe Judge at the helm than you did with guys such as Pat Shurmur and Ben McAdoo, whose names I don't ever want to say again. So yeah, I really love this signing. And I really think the more I think about it, I like it every day. And I really think it's a true step in the right direction. The Giants have continually been going on since last season.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've been needing a wide receiver one for so long. I mean, we have Sterling Shepard, who I think is a very reliable guy, really great to have there. You know, he can make the catches, he can make the plays, but he's not like the star that we've been looking for. I think Golladay, being the best wide receiver on the free agency market this year, is the star that this team needs, as well as Saquon coming back into the mix and everything going on there. Daniel Jones moving his way up the ranks, is not a rookie anymore. Hopefully he gets better in the next year. So I see the pieces coming together here for the New York Giants. I think it's really exciting because we've been struggling for the past few years and wanting to see more results that we haven't been seeing. And this signing, plus others that we'll go into in just a little bit, is definitely bringing this offense together, which needed a lot more work than our defense for sure. The other guy that I want to talk about is Adoree Jackson, because we're kind of in the works with him right now. It's not official yet. However, there was a picture that came out last night of him and Logan Ryan hanging out, which is very exciting. I believe that they were teammates in the past. So they brought in Logan Ryan to kind of finish this deal up. Like I said, we don't have details. We don't have an official contract or anything like that. But Tom, what are your thoughts on bringing CB Adoree Jackson into the mix, and is this going to be beneficial for us?
Yeah, so Jackson is a young player who's coming off his rookie deal, played 3 years with Logan Ryan in Tennessee. He played a big part in Tennessee upsetting Tom Brady and the New England Patriots a couple of years ago in the playoffs. So I think getting Jackson would be huge. Obviously, Giants Twitter has exploded over the weekend, first with Golladay and now with Adoree Jackson. But Jackson is the typical CB2 that you want on your roster, and that's a huge need for the Giants. And if you get him, that opens up even more draft flexibility now, where you can have a lot of good depth pieces. So I think the Giants, realistically, Sam, will need around $6 million to sign him. I think what they should do is sign him to a 1-year deal, mostly an incentive-based contract, because you're going to need to save about $4 million for the draft at least. But yeah, 25 years old, 5'11", 2017 first-round pick. I'll take that. We signed another 2017 first-round pick in free agency in John Ross, but Adoree Jackson, he started 41 games in 4 years. So it's kind of surprising that he's on the market. I think the only reason why he's here is because of the cap issues this year with the league. A lot of players cutting some really good players. Mm-hmm. And our odds have increased significantly in signing this player over the past weekend. You just mentioned he spent last night in New Jersey, had dinner with Logan Ryan, and Jabril Peppers and Darnay Holmes are helping recruit him. And he met with the Giants this morning. Now, he's rumored to meet with the Philadelphia Eagles tonight. He's supposed to take a 90-mile trip down the turnpike. But if the Giants can get a deal done before, anything else happens, we'll see. But I really like Jackson. Excellent player. Really good defending the deep ball as well. So I'm all for it. all for it at the right price. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That was my concern is the money, because I really feel like when the Golladay money came out, I was like, oh, how are we doing this? Because our cap space is so low. But Hank, what are your thoughts on Jackson and what he can bring to the defense?
Oh my gosh, having him to complement Bradbury Bunker, that would be insane. And I gotta tell you, let me say this too. We all have praised Patrick Graham on what an excellent job he has done with this defense. Can you imagine how ecstatic this guy is going to be if we can get Adoree Jackson? Like, he's going to be releasing the dogs. That's all I'm going to say. To quote someone like I've been seeing on Twitter, he's definitely going to be releasing the dogs.
Yeah, no, I think that this could be really great for the Giants, but like Tom said, at the right price. And I think a 1-year deal would be really great for that, just to see like, okay, this is what he can bring to our defense, and this is everything that he can get from the incentives, like Tom was saying, because I don't want to spend any more money, because we are not even at the draft yet. Like, we need to like kind of start conserving ourselves here. After this Jackson, if this deal goes down, I need Gettleman to just like chill for like a second, because we can't spend any more money. I need everyone to just like, all right, take a break. We got our guys. And what you mentioned before, Tom, too, which I'm curious about, is John Ross. And when the John Ross signing happened, I was like, why are we doing this? What do you think, Tom? What do you think was going through the front office's brain in terms of signing John Ross with also the intentions of meeting up with Kenny Golladay and possibly getting a deal done with him?
I think John Ross is a player who has a lot of good qualities about him. Again, he's a former first-round pick. He was riddled with injuries with the Bengals. He just did not have a lot of luck with them staying on the football field, but he did play college ball with Dante Pettis, who's on the Giants roster at Washington. So, he has experience with him. Ross is speed. He had a 4.22 at the combine 4 years ago. He is electric in speed, and he can take the top off a defense, which we all know last year, Daniel Jones on passes 20 yards or more, threw for over 650 yards, 6 touchdowns, no picks. So if this tells me that the scheme may be switching to more of a vertical type of offense, where Jason Garrett's trying to get vertical players with John Ross. Now, when I first saw the signing, I was like, your initial reaction is, whoa, this is interesting. Like, why him when we're targeting other players?
Right.
But it makes a lot of sense. It's another good depth piece at a cost-effective price. I think he's only guaranteed 1.6. So I'm not exactly sure how that deal is working out. I didn't look into the analytics of it, but this is a really good, young, talented player. And we have to remember, injuries are going to happen. So the more receivers we have, the better for the Giants. So I really like this deal too. Definitely an under the radar type of signing for the Giants.
Yeah. I was definitely a little bit confused when it happened, because I was like, where did this come from? Like, when did anyone even mention the fact that we were thinking about getting a different receiver? So, but I agree with you. I think that this is good in terms of getting that depth chart down, because we really needed a lot of help on this offense. And Golladay being there, Ross being there, keeping Shep around, working with Daniel. And now we even have a new tight end, which I am so excited about. We have ex-Viking Kyle Rudolph coming into the game here. Hank, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts about Kyle Rudolph coming into our offense in the position where we have someone who maybe isn't the best at catching the balls?
I'm glad you mentioned that. My first reaction to this, instant upgrade. Yeah. Because first of all, that's another signing that I think can give you other options in the draft if my guy is still available at number 11, which I doubt. But having said that, this is an upgrade because this is someone who I think could also help with our red zone problems this year. And I think some of those red zone problems were probably a key difference between us winning and losing a few games and not having to worry about, what's his face, Nate Sudfeld playing for the Eagles. But anyways, I digress. This guy, he's very accurate. He has good hands. And the other thing that I think is even more important, he's a good blocker. Engram was one of the biggest problems I had with Engram, even before that infamous game in Philadelphia, was that he's not a good blocker. So I think right there, that's a big upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom, what are your thoughts on Kyle Rudolph?
I think Joe Judge sold him. A report came out today that Kyle Rudolph was really sold by Joe Judge and what the team culture was like. And I think Rudolph has true tight end traits. This is a guy who's a 2-time Pro Bowler. He's an excellent blocker. He doesn't drop passes. He hasn't dropped a pass in over 2 years. So he's a very sure-handed type of player. And what he gives Daniel Jones is a nice big target in the red zone, where Rudolph has had 4 seasons. So he's a 10-year vet, 4 seasons of 90-plus targets, which is huge. He's a clutch player with playoff experience. He's a quality dude. He's very durable as well. I know he missed 4 games last year, but that was the first time he's been hurt in like 5 years. So my only concern with him is he is slow moving, but the Vikings underutilized him last year. And the reason why, they drafted his replacement a couple of years back in Irv Smith, who I believe was a first round pick for them out of Alabama. So they had Rudolph's replacement on the roster, and they also had Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. So what that does is Rudolph's now getting less targets. I love Kyle Rudolph because, first of all, he's 6'6", right? That's huge, 265. And we just mentioned his 2 biggest strengths are red zone target, and he's going to help Saquon Barkley, and he's going to help Daniel Jones, not just in the blocking game, but in the passing game as well. He's a third down target that you could rely on to move the chains. Now, as far as the deal goes, so it's 2 years. It can go worth up to $14 million. He actually has the highest cap hit in 2021 out of all the free agents that we've signed. I think it's around $4.75 million. So, I still think that's a pretty good deal for the Giants. I mean, this free agency just tells you that the cap is so fluid. I mean, it's hard because you can really play around with the cap and make things, line things up, backload contracts into in the following years. So I think Rudolph was an excellent signing. Definitely one of my favorites. Now, the only question is we have 4 tight ends on our roster.
Right. That's the question now, is who's gonna leave.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are hoping it's Ingram at this point, because I really just don't see a place for him. Yeah. But I have this weird underlying feeling that he's still going to be on the roster next year. I don't think that it's just going to be that quick, especially coming off of a Pro Bowl. I think that a lot of people would be like, what are you doing getting rid of a Pro Bowler? And which she shouldn't have even been there in the first place, but I digress. We don't need to get in another Evan Ingram rant that I've been on several times. But no, I love this signing. And when Kyle Rudolph became a free agent, the first thing that came into my brain was wow, imagine having a tight end like that. And I didn't even have the slightest thought that the Giants would be interested in him at all, really. I didn't think that we'd be going for a free agent tight end. I thought that maybe that would be covered in the draft. But when I found out that we signed him, our friend Jordan, who everybody knows at this point in time, texted me just the words Kyle Rudolph, and I was like, oh my God, it's happening. We have a tight end who can do tight end things, who can block, who can get actual catches in the end zone. I have this memory of watching a Vikings game for some reason and seeing Kyle Rudolph get an Odell Beckham type catch, where he's got one of his feet in the end zone and he's leaning out and he's catching a ball. And I was like, wow, that guy is on our team now. That is so exciting to me, because I think that this is finally coming together for the Giants. And we can actually perform. We can actually score points and be a possibly scary team in the NFC. I don't know if we're going to make it to the Super Bowl next year. I don't know if that is the biggest thing that's going to happen. But I definitely think Kyle Rudolph being on this team, figuring out which tight end is going to leave, also bringing up more cap space with releasing players. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of this, and I'm really excited. But the big question here, I think, is now we have a wide receiver, now we have a tight end, and a cornerback. So Tom, I'll start with you. Where do you think we're leaning towards in the draft? I heard you guys, I had asked you this question on your stream the other day, but where do you guys think that we're going to end up? Because a lot of people were leaning towards both a wide receiver and a tight end. Now we have filled both those positions. Do you think we're still going to kind of draft somebody, or is it going to be someone else, at least in the first round at number 11?
Right. So Pitts won't be there at 11. I'll say that. He's either going to Philly or Carolina. Carolina's in desperate need of a tight end. It's tough because you could still double dip at the wide receiver position. There's guys like Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith who might be there, especially with the rumors coming out that 4 out of the first 6 or 7 picks might be quarterbacks. So that kind of eliminates a lot of teams from the pack there as far as these receivers go. And you'd imagine Jamar Chase will be the first wide receiver off the board out of LSU. So I think Waddle and Smith are still options at number 11. You can go with a guy like a Rashawn Slater, who's a very versatile offensive lineman out of Northwestern, 6'4", 304, big 33-inch arms. I think he'd be an immediate quality starter for this offensive line at a Northwestern. He can play any position. As far as where I think we go, I think it depends, right? Because we can't really get too much into it until free agency is over. I think it depends if we sign Jackson or not. So I think if we don't, you could really look at a guy like a Caleb Farley, cornerback out of Virginia Tech, 6'2", by the way, or Patrick Surtain out of Alabama, who was MVP of this year's Rose Bowl. So there's a lot of guys for the Giants at number 11. Micah Parsons is another linebacker out of Penn State. Everyone was screaming for Isaiah Simmons last year, and we didn't take him, right? So this could be a good option. So as far as where I think the Giants are going right now, something tells me they're still going to go after one of those 2 Alabama wide receivers, Waddle or Smith. So that will still be my first option. But the typical Giants pick would be to take Kwity Paye out of Michigan, an edge rusher who nobody's talking about, didn't play much this past year, and everyone on draft night is going to drop their jaw and be like, what? So if there's one guy on my radar that's the Giants pick, it's Kwity Paye. But I think they should still go with either Waddle or Smith, especially because Sterling Shepard, right, can potentially be released at the end of the season to free up $6.5 million if we're in a similar cap situation. I don't want to get into that, but I think Waddle or Smith would be the ideal selection at number 11, even with all these receivers on the roster.
Right. And that you are spot on with the fact that the Giants would absolutely just pick some random person that nobody's heard of. And just everyone would just be like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, perfect example is Daniel Jones. Nobody thought that Daniel Jones would I don't even know if they thought he would go in the first round, let alone number 6 overall. So yeah, that is so on point in terms of the way the Giants draft. But Hank, what do you think in terms of the draft? What do you think the Giants are going to do, and what would you like them to do?
I think I can see them going for an offensive lineman as well. I could, I would say maybe that's another area of need that's not completely like fixed, I would say, but I definitely wouldn't rule out the possibility of taking either of the 2 Alabama receivers if they're still there, because we know that's a possibility. But then again, am I going to rule out what Tom suggested as in a Dave Gettleman, what the heck, draft? I think that's what I'm going to call that, if that makes sense. But yeah, no, I'm thinking they're probably going to go the offensive line route, but I'm not going to give a second thought to the wide receiver or what am I trying to say? I'm not going to say that taking a wide receiver is a bad idea, because it's not. And like Tom said, Tom makes a good point. Like, they could still possibly cut Sterling Shepard for cap reasons, which I don't really want to think about either until like August comes around. But either way, all I know is the options are out on the table, and Gelman has a lot of flexibility and leeway, and it's going to be really interesting to see where his mind's at.
Yeah, definitely. And I would be sad to see Shep go, but if we had, Jalen Waddle on our team, I would not be like opposed to that. I think that either Devonta Smith or Jalen Waddle would be a great asset to our team, and a lot of people are talking about that at this point. A lot, like maybe after the college national championship, like nobody thought Devontae Smith would go anywhere near number 11. But as time has gone on, it seems like, well, there's a lot of QBs in this draft, which I think last year there were not as many. I think that it was very weird of the fact that there wasn't that many quarterbacks, but also it just kind of was like, here's a drought, and now we're just going to get a hurricane of all QBs. So obviously this with Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, all these guys. I think that those wide receivers are definitely going to make their way down, but we will see. We will definitely see, because this draft, I have a feeling, is just going to be bonkers. It's also, I just got the notification today, this is going to be in person as opposed to last year with it being virtual. So I think that could be really exciting, having an in-person draft again. I feel like I almost forgot what that's like.
Yeah. It should be very interesting to watch this year too, but I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be in Cleveland, right?
Yes, Cleveland.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. I'm really stoked. I'm really stoked for the draft. And at this point, we're just about a month away, which seems crazy. I think that it was 2 months away, like yesterday, I feel like. So overall, let's just get everyone's overall feelings on how the Giants did, in terms of free agency and possibly what we can do in the draft. If you had to give it a grade, Tom, how would you grade the last 2 weeks of what the Giants have been doing?
So I'm going to give them an A- right now, because we still have holes at CB2. Obviously, you can't go on a shopping spree in free agency. You're not going to fix all of your holes. That's what the draft is for, and good teams build through the draft. But the Giants did a fantastic job maneuvering cap. We went into this offseason $3 million over in cap. Now we sit around $7 million below. So the cap is fluid, and it goes to show you how well the Giants have done. With all these signings, cost-effective signings, Mike Glennon, Reggie Ragland, John Ross, Fadio Denibo. There are a couple head scratchers like Devontae Booker's making a good amount of money to be a backup running back. But I like all the signings the Giants made. Free agency is not complete yet for this team. I think there might be maybe another move or two on its way. So I'm going to give them an A- right now. That's my grade. All
right. That's a pretty solid grade. Hank, what about you?
Yeah, I would say maybe the A- B+ range is where I'm leaning towards. I definitely think there's still some holes, and I know there's probably going to be one or two moves left, but all things considered, there's really not many moves I can really criticize Dave Gettleman for within the past, not just this year, but within the past few years with free agency. So yeah, I feel pretty good, and I'm just ready to get to draft day, even though I obviously have opening day to look forward to, but to get to draft day and really see which direction the Giants are headed. And I'm confident that everything will work out. I really think this is the year we finally, I'm going to expand on this. I really think this is the year we finally win maybe 9 or 10 games, finally get into the playoffs. Guy can dream, right?
Absolutely. I think that is a realistic dream, though. I definitely see that being very possible, even with what Washington is slowly bringing people in for. I mean, they got Curtis Samuel, they got Ryan Fitzpatrick, who people will write off, but don't write that man off. He is weirdly good. And to be honest, Eagles, shambles. Cowboys, all of a sudden, Dak has a bunch of money. They think he's going to play better. That's not how it works. Washington, like I said, bringing in people. But in terms of our division, I'm not all that afraid of these other teams in here. And to be fair, we almost did win the division this past year.
Yeah.
But, between flukes and what team did or didn't tank, we don't need to get into that all over again. But but yeah, no, I agree with you guys in terms of the rankings. And Tom, you just brought up Mike Glennon, who I totally forgot about. That was an interesting signing, in my opinion. I was a bit confused, but also I kind of understood. But I know that you definitely had some points about that.
Yeah. So he's not even making $1 million. He's making $988K. And so I actually think he's an upgrade over Colt McCoy. Statistically, Colt McCoy is an older quarterback, and Glennon he's had a lot more opportunity to succeed, but he's been very successful. well, not very successful, but he's been successful in Tampa Bay, and he's a quality backup starter who can fill in and give you numbers. I also think he's a better scheme fit for what the Giants are trying to do in 2021 than Colt McCoy. You're signing him for much less than what you signed Colt McCoy for last year. I know Colt McCoy is going to be 34 this year. Glennon's only 31. So, I mean, I think that's I just think Glennon is probably a better option at this point than Colt McCoy. In my personal opinion, I think he's very, very cheap option and very solid backup quarterback. I think you saw it last year with Jacksonville filling in for Gardner Minshew. He was pretty good. So I like it. I do like it.
I mean, in terms of money, I think that's pretty solid. If you're not even making $1 million sitting as a backup, and to be fair, a veteran backup, Mike Glennon's been in the league for quite a few years at this point. Hank, do you have any thoughts about Colt McCoy no longer being our backup quarterback for Daniel?
I kind of was hoping that he would be back next season, but at the same time, it's not really, him leaving isn't really something I'm crying over spilled milk over, if you know what I mean. Like, I think Glennon's probably a more suitable backup, and to give him less money, that's at the end of the day, I think that's another win.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Really,
I was a little bit upset because I kind of had when Colt McCoy did come in for Daniel, those times that he was struggling with a bit of a sprain, I thought that he did a fairly good job. But the fact that Mike Glennon is taking a significant amount of significantly less money than we would have been paying for, I think at this point it's all about saving money, doing the right things in terms of contracts with the Giants, and making sure that we have enough money to deal with the draft and deal with everything else going on there. So overall, I think that the Giants did a fairly good job over the past couple weeks, and I can say that I'm not as stressed out as I usually am, because usually I feel like we are not the best in free agency. But guys, that is a lot of Giant stuff that went down, and I'm glad that you guys were able to come on and talk about it. Tom, why don't you start plugging all of your stuff and where they can find Review and Preview, Big Blue Avenue? I know that you guys have a new YouTube channel and all that stuff.
Yeah. So Review and Preview Sports, you can follow us there on Facebook at Review and Preview Sports, Instagram and Twitter as well. We do have our own YouTube channel, Review and Preview Sports, all teams. You can find content there from all our shows, basketball, football, baseball, you name it. Our Giants exclusive channels, Instagram and Twitter at Big Blue Avenue, and then our new Giants YouTube channel at Big Blue Avenue. I've been putting videos out daily as the signings come along, so we'll see what happens with Jackson. But be on the lookout for some videos. We're gonna have some good guests in the off season, and Sam, you're definitely more than welcome to come back on soon. So yeah.
Great. Hank, do you have anything to plug? Anything you'd like to add?
Yes, next week or within the coming weeks, is when I plan on debuting Hitting for the Cycle. It is a show where I'll be going over baseball news, including, but it's certainly not limited to, Yankees stuff, like for recaps of their past week and how I think they'll be able to do. Sam, like Tom said, for Review and Preview, you are certainly more than welcome on your show. And if you want to bring your hardcore Yankee fan brother on, I say be my guest and go for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. These are the two best guys to talk about Giants free agency with, because otherwise I would have been sitting here yelling about things. So thank you guys so much for coming on, and everybody, we are going to go back to our regular scheduled podcast programming. Imagine it was possible that local fresh groceries could be delivered right to your front door. You would have so much free time, you could listen to more of The Girl Who Talks Sports. Instacart gives you unlimited grocery delivery for one low monthly fee. Better than what those other guys who nickel and dime you do whenever you use their app. Instacart can deliver to your front door in as little as 1 hour. You're not even tied down to one store. You can shop multiple stores, find deals in your area to save some money, and shoppers hand select your items based on your preferences. So don't worry, they'll keep your gentle items like your eggs safe too. To start your 14-day free trial, click the link in the show notes so Instacart knows that you were sent by me, the girl who talks sports. And this also helps to support our show. Instacart, never step foot in a grocery store again. Okie dokie, friends. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Tom and Hank. Those are my guys. They're two of my good friends on my podcasting circle. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. Talking about the Giants is always a fun time, and I just realized I've been filming the whole time with my sunglasses on my head. Oh well, guess they're staying there. So usually we have a tea time around this time. The last couple weeks, not so much teas going on. I don't really have that much tea to spill. However, we are going to go on to our other segments on the show and start wrapping things up. So, first things first, our second segment on the show usually is our Let's Talk About It segment. And this week, we are going to talk about Sister Jean. Sister Jean is my angel, to be quite honest with you. If you guys don't know who Sister Jean is, if you're not following March Madness, to be quite honest, I don't even follow March Madness like that. I fill out a bracket. I, try to win some money. However, not always in my favor. I'm really bad at picking. However, Sister Jean is a huge part of March Madness, and a lot of people know who she is because she is this ancient old nun who supports Loyola Chicago. I believe she works for Loyola Chicago, who 2 years ago in the 2019 March Madness. Yeah, wait, we're not in 2020 anymore. We're in 2021. So Loyola Chicago was the Cinderella story of March Madness, which was really fun because no one even thought Loyola Chicago would make it anywhere, but they did, and they made it to the Final Four, I'm pretty sure. Sister Jean is their nun who is like follows this basketball team around, she's part of, I think, the scouting and stuff like that. She is, at this point in time, 101 years old, gets rolled around in her little wheelchair. And in order to attend March Madness this year, which she is in person at March Madness supporting Loyola Chicago, she got her COVID vaccine for that reason. Just amazing. This woman is incredible. And I wanted to talk about her because I kind of like looked her up, and she's just so the thing is that I see all the time on Twitter is radiating comfort. Like, that's a big thing right now on Twitter, is like a lot of people post movies from their past and they're like, oh my god, this film radiates comfort. For me, Sister Jean radiates comfort. I went to an all-girl Catholic school my entire life, and my principal, Sister Rose, God rest her soul, she was amazing, terrifying woman, but really has a special place in my heart. Sister Jean kind of gives me the same vibes. Just absolutely adorable nun who is there to support her guys, support her basketball team through thick and thin, literally in the middle of a pandemic or a panoramic or a parallelogram, whatever you want to call it. Sister Jean she's just a good luck charm, if you will. And I've been making the joke recently that Loyola Chicago played their first game on a Sunday. And I was like, who was that? Who was part of that? Because obviously Loyola Chicago is going to win on a Sunday. That's when Sister Jean's prayers are the strongest. Just absolutely incredible. She's amazing. And also the joke I've been constantly making, and only a few people have laughed at it, which are my good friends, thank you so much, that Sister Jean's powers grow stronger as Easter grows closer. And this year Easter is in 2 weeks, in the beginning of April, which is a lot earlier than usual. So Sister Jean is at her top. She is just here right now. She is ready to go. She is praying for this team, and this team just accepts those prayers, and they do incredible things. To be quite honest, I don't know what kind of incredible things. I just know they win. Like I said, I don't really watch the games, but I just think Sister Jean is amazing, and I wanted to talk about her just because she's just... The fact that they have a 101-year-old nun cheering them on and being a vital part of their basketball program and March Madness, the tournament as a whole, just speaks for itself. So, Sister Jean, I just want you to know how much I love you. You are a glorious person. You seem wonderful. She had like these little balloons around her wrist the other day with like a little flower, and she was clapping, and oh my God. I just love it. So hopefully Sister Jean never dies and she's going to live forever. And we will be seeing her in many, many Loyola Chicago Final Fours in the March Madness tournament from here on out. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about this week was Sister Jean. Believe it or not, our second segment that we have here, which is our tweet of the week. Our tweet of the week also has to do with Sister Jean. So it's a Sister Jean type of day. Our tweet of the week this week is from Sean Yu. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name. YOO. Sean Yu tweeted out this, and it is actual perfection. He said, if Sister Jean wanted to, she could pray for world peace, but she uses her powers for March Madness instead. And I gotta be honest, I respect that so much. It's so perfect. Oh man, when I saw that, I had to give it a retweet. That is so funny to me. But absolutely, like, true though. Like, Sister Jean obviously has so much power in her. Like, she obviously is so good at praying for her basketball team that she could just be like, oh, no more poverty, and like the world would be better. But respect to you, Sister Jean, for praying for March Madness. I think a lot of people in your position would do the same thing. Okay, and we are wrapping it up kind of earlier than usual, don't you think? So we're going to end off, as usual, with our feel-good story. And to be honest, I was kind of struggling to find a feel-good story. Usually, you know, someone's being cute, getting married, having a baby, donating to charity, all that stuff. This one's a little different, and we're jumping to some college football things. So today's March 23rd, and it was Alabama's Pro Day today. So our feel-good story has to do with that. A lot of these like bigger name guys, Devonta Smith, did not participate in today's Pro Day. Mac Jones did, who apparently did phenomenal, like outrageously good. The man is definitely going to go in the first round. Another person who's not participating but had to be there was Najee Harris. Najee Harris is Alabama's running back. Phenomenal running back. Fantastic. But he didn't participate in this pro day. However, he needed to be there to support his teammates, which is so touching. And you might say like, oh, well, obviously like he wasn't the only one there to support his teammates. But let me tell you the lengths that he went to get to Alabama's pro day in Tuscaloosa. He had a flight from Dallas to Tuscaloosa the day before, and that flight got canceled for whatever reason. I'm not entirely sure what the reasoning was, or it was delayed, or whatever happened to that flight. He was not going to be able to go to the pro day. The man got into his car and drove 9 hours from Dallas, Texas to Tuscaloosa, Alabama for his teammates, to watch his teammates in a pro day, not to be in the pro day, not to participate for himself, to be there for his teammates. And if that doesn't just show you so much heart, I don't know what will. And I was like, this is perfect. This is the perfect way to end off our episode this week. Friends, thank you so much for listening to the episode of The Girl Who Talks Sports this week. Don't forget, once again, the merch is in the bio. Please support the show. Buy some merch. It's really cute, very minimalistic. I'm a big fan of it. So don't forget to do that, and don't forget to subscribe on all podcasting platforms, wherever it is that you get your podcast from, as well as leaving a review. That's super helpful for me. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Girl Who Talks Sports. We are very close to 100 subscribers. I would really appreciate it if you guys helped me get there. And finally, don't forget to follow us on social media at TGWTS Podcast on both Twitter and on Instagram. Friends, I hope you all have a fun, fantastic, sports-filled day, and I will see you guys all next week. Bye!